Good morning, gardeners, and welcome to Tuesday, August 8th. My name is Catherine, and I created a show called Good Morning Gardeners, even though I can't grow green things, because I am referring to gardening metaphorically. We are planting the seeds for a better day. We're starting our morning by getting in the right mindset to cultivate a better life for ourselves, better communities, and a better world. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you'd like to add Good Morning Gardeners to your morning routine. I do my best to wake you up with positive and mentally stimulating ideas, but sometimes I miss things. If you have something to add to the ideas I discuss, please chime in the comments section below. Also, before we get started today, I need to let you guys know that I will be taking yet another vacation starting August 14th, so there will be no new episodes from Monday, August 14th through Friday, August 18th. I don't normally take rapid-fire vacations like this, but I do normally embark on 2 adventures every summer, and it just worked out that this summer my traveling was clustered at the end. So today's daily Stoic reading, titled Start Where the World Is, begins with a quote from Marcus Aurelius. Do now what nature demands of you. Get right to it if that's in your power. Don't look around to see if people will know about it. Don't await the perfection of Plato's Republic, but be satisfied with even the smallest step forward and regard the outcome as a small thing. The authors add, have you ever heard the expression, don't let perfect be the enemy of the good? The idea is not to settle or compromise your standards, but rather not to become trapped by idealism. The community organizer Saul Alinsky opens his book Rules for Radicals with a pragmatic but inspiring articulation of that idea. As an organizer, I start from where the world is, as it is, not as I would like it to be. That we accept the world as it is does not in any sense weaken our desire to change it into what we believe it should be. It is necessary to begin where the world is if we are going to change it to what we think it should be. There is plenty that you could do right now, today, that would make the world a better place. There are plenty of small steps that, were you to take them, would help move things forward. Don't excuse yourself from doing them because the conditions aren't right or because a better opportunity might come along soon. Do what you can now, and when you've done it, keep it in perspective. Don't overblow the results. Shun both ego and excuse before and after. So I absolutely love that one, and I find it especially relevant to my own life, in which I've strived to carve out the most ethical career I could, given my experience and skills. If you're new here, the way I have done this is by starting my own graphic design studio with the intention of exclusively serving clients who are working to make the world a better place. I began this journey by reading the Badass Book Trio by Jen Sincero in order to learn how to manifest my dream while staying motivated. I also read The Precipice by Tony Ord to give me the context for the most pressing problems humanity faces and therefore the most important industries or areas that my clients should be focusing on. Next, I read Art as Therapy to help me understand the psychological effect and moral implications of visual media. I also read Doing Good Better by William MacAskill, which I believed would help me better define the word ethical in the context of graphic design and help me develop a selection process for my clients. Now, something that I have realized embarrassingly recently is that the world can't be made up entirely of charities and nonprofits. I'm coming closer and closer every day to actually, starting with the world where it is. And I really have struggled with it because I am an idealist, and I am also, possibly somewhat separated from the world because I am so introverted, and I prefer the company of my books to, more situations that might help me better understand the world the way that it actually is. Lately, I've really become inspired by the idea of, servicing clients who are simply doing the humble work of prioritizing value over profit with their customers. The world needs all kinds of businesses, because we're humans. We need food, we need shelter, we need grocers, we need construction workers and plumbers. And I used to think that I wanted to do the important work that would empower, these charities or these nonprofits that were really going to change the world. But the more I read about this kind of thing, and the more I think about it, the more I realize the world is changed in the day to day, just like our lives are comprised of each of the small moments, each minute, each second over the course of a lifetime. The whole world is changed through the small things. So, if you want to change the world, you're often tempted to make a grand gesture or, align with, big, powerful entities. But, I'm starting to believe that the opposite is the best way to change the world. Anyway, that's just some sort of off-the-cuff food for thought this morning. For our learning moment, I want to read to you about the do something principle from The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson. He writes, in 2008, after holding down a day job for all of 6 weeks, I gave up on the whole job thing to pursue an online business. At the time, I had absolutely no clue what I was doing, but I figured if I was going to be broke and miserable, I might as well be while working on my own terms. At that time, all I seemed to really care about was chasing girls. So fuck it, I decided to start a blog about my crazy dating life. That first morning that I woke up self-employed, terror quickly consumed me. I found myself sitting with my laptop and realized for the first time that I was entirely responsible for all of my own decisions, as well as the consequences of those decisions. I was responsible for teaching myself web design, internet marketing, search engine optimization, and other esoteric topics. It was all on my shoulders now. And so I did what any 24-year-old who's just quit his job and had no idea what he was doing would do. I downloaded some computer games and avoided work like it was the Ebola virus. As the weeks went on and my bank account turned from black to red, it was clear that I needed to come up with some sort of strategy to get myself to put in the 12 or 14-hour days that were necessary to get a new business off the ground. And that plan came from an unexpected place. When I was in high school, my math teacher, Mr. Packwood, used to say, if you're stuck on a problem, don't sit there and think about it. Just start working on it. Even if you don't know what you're doing, the simple act of working on it will eventually cause the right ideas to show up in your head. During that early self-employment period, when I struggled every day, completely clueless about what to do and terrified of the results, or lack thereof, Mr. Packwood's advice started beckoning me from the recesses of my mind. I heard it like a mantra. Don't just sit there, do something. The answers will follow. In the course of applying Mr. Packwood's advice, I learned a powerful lesson about motivation. It took about 8 years for this lesson to sink in, but what I discovered over those long, grueling months of bombed product launches, laughable advice columns, uncomfortable nights on friends' couches, overdrawn bank accounts, and hundreds of thousands of words written, most of them unread, was perhaps the most important thing I had ever learned in my life. Action isn't just the effect of motivation, it's also the cause of it. Most of us commit to action only if we feel a certain level of motivation, and we feel motivation only when we feel enough emotional inspiration. We assume that the steps occur in a sort of chain reaction like this. Emotional inspiration leads to motivation, which leads to desirable action. If you want to accomplish something but don't feel motivated or inspired, then you assume you're just screwed. There's nothing you can do about it. It's not until a major emotional life event occurs that you can generate enough motivation to actually get off the couch and do something. The thing about motivation is that it's not only a three-part chain, but an endless loop. Inspiration leads to motivation, which leads to action, which leads to inspiration, which leads to motivation, which leads to action, etc. Your actions create further emotional reactions and inspirations and move on to motivate your future actions. Taking advantage of this knowledge, we can actually reorient our mindset in the following way. Action leads to inspiration, which leads to motivation. If you lack the motivation to make an important change in your life, do something, anything really, and then harness the reaction to that action as a way to begin motivating yourself. I call this the do something principle. After using it myself to build my business, I began teaching it to readers who came to me perplexed by their own questions, like, how do I apply for a job? How do I tell this guy I want to be his girlfriend? And the like. During the first couple years I worked for myself, entire weeks would go by without my accomplishing much, for no other reason than that I was anxious and stressed about what I had to do, and it was too easy to put everything off. I quickly learned, though, that forcing myself to do something, even the most menial of tasks, quickly made the larger tasks seem much easier. If I had to redesign an entire website, I'd force myself to sit down, and I would say, okay, I'll just design the header right now. But after the header was done, I'd find myself moving on to other parts of the site, and before I knew it, I'd be energized and engaged in the project. I find it so interesting that Mark Manson started his journey by creating a blog about his dating life, which is something that, I would never be interested in at all. And he wound up writing this little book on the human condition, which I absolutely love. In a way, that passage illustrates the argument to start where you are, or start where the world is, even more just by the nature of who wrote it. Because at least according to what I read there, it seems that he didn't even take the time to intellectualize his blog idea on his dating life, even a little bit, before he started. He just started with what he was thinking about, and off he went. And now he is heavily influencing people like me, who spend a large chunk of their time intellectualizing and optimizing their choices so they can become better people and inspire a better world. People like me and you, actually. For our feel-good moment, I'm going to go back into The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and then we will hear from the ancestors again today. So Mark Manson writes, the author Tim Ferriss relates a story he once heard about a novelist who had written over 70 novels. Someone asked the novelist how he was able to write so consistently and remain inspired and motivated. He replied, 200 crappy words per day. That's it. The idea was that if he forced himself to write 200 crappy words, more often than not, the act of writing would inspire him, and before he knew it, he'd have thousands of words down on the page. If we follow the do something principle, failure feels unimportant. When the standard of success becomes merely acting, when any result is regarded as progress and important, when inspiration is seen as a reward rather than a prerequisite, we propel ourselves ahead. We feel free to fail, and that failure moves us forward. The do something principle not only helps us overcome procrastination, but it's also the process by which we adopt new values. If you're in the midst of an existential shitstorm and everything feels meaningless, if all the ways you used to measure yourself have come up short and you have no idea what's next, if you know that you've been hurting yourself chasing false dreams, or if you know that there's some better metric you should be measuring yourself with but you don't know how, the answer is the same. Do something. That something can be the smallest viable action towards something else. It can be anything. Recognize that you've been... Sorry, let me start that sentence again. Recognize that you've been an entitled prick in all your relationships and want to start developing more compassion for others? Do something. Start simple. Make it a goal to listen to someone's problem and give some of your time to helping that person. Just do it once. or promise yourself that you will assume that you are the root of your problems the next time you get upset. Just try on the idea and see how it feels. That's often all that's necessary to get the snowball rolling, the action needed to inspire the motivation to keep going. You can become your own source of inspiration. You can become your own source of motivation. Action is always within reach. And with simply doing something as your only metric for success, well, then even failure pushes you forward. And the ancestors said, "This newfound comfort and peace you're stepping into is yours to keep. Keep it." For our focus moment today, I want to applaud you for the progress that you have already made. You've already listened to basically this entire video. You've already incorporated a morning routine, and you are being the best that you can be right now simply by sticking to it. You've already begun thinking about everything I've spoken to you about this morning, and if you haven't already, you'll soon think of one way you can do something else right now. So I'm not going to keep you from it by talking anymore. Go do your thing. I hope you found this helpful, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I will speak with you again tomorrow.